Frank's Red Hot is the perfect blend of flavor and heat, so you can use an entire bottle to make recipes like buffalo chicken dip or buffalo nachos, or even things that don't start with buffalo. Frank's Red Hot, I put that on everything.
Hey, Craig.
It's here. It's football season.
Well, you know it's football season because it's, number one, it's September 1st, and number two, there were like, we're recording this on Thursday, there were like 5 games tonight, including like two epic ones, right? Like Penn State came back to win, and what was the other one? West Virginia and Pitt, and Pitt came, I think that was sort of neck and neck. Pitt ended up winning that, so. Yeah, man, we are here.
FCS,
we made it.
Overtimes. Yeah.
Yeah, we made it. We did it. Woo!
We did it. And we did it. And this is, we made it. And to kick it off, this is episode 171, Podcast versus Everyone. I'm Craig Powers. With me, as always, is Jeff Nusser. And Jeff, I know you're talking about these football games, but I know what we're much more hyped about is the other type of football. The WSU soccer team finally getting a win that they've deserved early in this year. But waiting until the very, very last moment to grab that win.
As we in the soccer community say, at the death is when they got it. So. Yeah, I'm floating on a cloud, dude. So they played at Seattle U tonight. I really wanted to go, and just for my family, it just did not work out Thursday. You would think a Thursday night before school has even started would be fine, except we had football practice tonight. We had that for one kid, and then another kid, the older kid, had marching band because his high school's team was opening the season tonight. So going to Seattle was not really in the cards, but. It was so watching it on ESPN Plus after I got done doing my fantasy football draft that I also had to do while my kid was practicing. I watched the last 30 minutes or so of the game, and it was 1-1. Cougs had taken a pretty early lead. I guess it pretty dominated the first half. Second half was a little more even, and again same kind of story. They were out shooting the opponent, shots on goal. I can't speak to how quality the chances were, but certainly, you and I are big fans of shot volume, and once again, they were practicing shot volume. And yet, of course, they, Seattle U nicks a goal, and then it's looking like it's heading for a draw. And with about 7 minutes to go, ball was in the box, kind of bouncing around. Looked like they had scored the go-ahead goal, but and I think it was Sydney Studer who put it in, and they called so it was mixing around. There's a collision, and the Seattle U player falls, and the ball is at the feet of Sydney Studer, and she punches it in, starts celebrating. Ref turns towards the center circle, points to the center circle, which is the universal sign for, okay, that's a goal. And then like 2 seconds later, he waves it off. And it's like, wait, you can't do that. Like that's, you don't get to decide after the fact that, wait, it looks like the player in the box is really hurt. Now I'm going to give a foul. Maybe there was
there's someone laying on the ground. What?
Yeah. Like the only thing I can think of, and I don't know, because, this is a low quality ESPN Plus whack production, right? So, the only thing I can think of is that maybe one of the assistant referees, the dude, for the listeners who don't know, that's the people on the sidelines with the flags. maybe one of them raised their flag. But I can't even imagine that because the AR on that end of the field was on the far side and the collision took place right in front of the referee, like literally right in front of him. And so he waves it off. Schulenberger fucking loses his mind, as he should have. Picks up a yellow card in the process. And it's just like, fuck, here we go again, right? Like completely dominating, one-way traffic, as we say in soccer. It's all down at one end, and we're peppering them with shots and getting opportunities, and again, just not breaking through. And it was corner after corner after corner. And every single corner, it was really interesting. The Seattle U keeper was being extremely aggressive on corners. Like anything in the box, she was trying to punch out of the way, which was super interesting. So what the Cougars did on the last corner with, about 50 seconds to go, they didn't, kind of curl it in. And I can't remember who took the corner, but instead of sort of curling it in right in front of goal, she hit it to the far post. So kind of hit it over the keeper. And so the keeper kind of got out of position, came out, ball goes sailing over her head. Micaiah Miness punches it back across the face of goal. And then Jenna Studer, Sydney Studer's sister, who transferred from Arizona, banged it home right in front of goal for the goal with 45 seconds to play. And then it was just sort of desperation for Seattle U from there, and they just got sort of hoofed it forward with really no shot on goal for the last 45 seconds. It was totally deserved, really nice. Soccer things tend to come around like that, right? Like if you generate enough chances, you're gonna, if you have a game like the Michigan game where you lose and maybe you feel like you should have done better, you were hard done. This is the kind of game where it's like, yeah, it comes back around. So really nice to not, have another draw. 2 wins on the trot now. So life is good if you're a WSU soccer fan.
Yeah. So 2-1-1 and that's like, not the worst start given the schedule so far. They could very easily be 4-0. And there's nothing to say from the play you've seen early that they're not going to be a very good team again that's going to push in the NCAA and potentially can go in the second weekend and all that stuff. So that's exciting. They got I hate when they do this. Like maybe there's a volleyball game on. No, I don't know. Like they have a Sunday game, so like it's a Sunday after a football game, but it's at 6 p.m. Which is kind of a bummer. Like,
yeah,
if you put it at like 1, I might, maybe I could stay. I've done that before, stayed and watched the match. But yeah, I'm not staying until 6 and getting home at 1 o'clock in the morning. Sorry.
No, that's
sorry, Cougs.
That's asking a little bit much. I wonder if I don't know. Could have to do with travel for the other team. Could have to do with just the fact that they played tonight. Maybe they wanted that extra few hours. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, that was awesome. Wish I could have gone since it was in Seattle, but alas, it was not to be tonight.
Yeah,
even if I did that, we wouldn't be recording this show. So
yeah, we kind of had to do that. So this was kind of now or never. I'm driving to Pullman at somewhere in the middle of the day tomorrow. So which hey, I'm driving to Pullman tomorrow. Woo! It's football season.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm excited.
This is so exciting.
I'm going to be tailgating on Saturday. All that good stuff. Watching the Cougs in Martin Stadium. It's football season, the shortest season. So you just have all this anticipation. And then finally it's here.
For 12 damn games over 13 damn weeks. Like,
yeah,
it's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah. So let's talk. It's football season. We've kind of made a tradition, to do these probability predictions, before each season. Instead of going one by one and picking win, loss, we give a probability for each game from 0 to 1. 0 to 1. So anywhere in between. So, you could say you have a 50-50 shot, and then we add that up at the end. We add up the probabilities. So you get a cumulative probability, and that's where you get the number of wins that we're predicting. And last year, I want to say I know when picking win-loss, you were at 4-8, but I believe we were both at around 6-6 when we predicted on the thing. So usually, like, if you put a probability on it, you're gonna often be more accurate than just going win-loss, because it kind of accounts for winning a weird game here and there, or losing a game you shouldn't here and there. So that's always a fun, because there's always games like that WSU might have a 30% chance to win. You're going to say loss, but if you put a 0.3 on it, then you're kind of giving yourself some credit if they actually win. So yeah. So we're gonna how we're gonna do this. We're just gonna run through game by game, all 12 regular season games, and then I'll let Excel do the math for me, and we'll just go give our probabilities. And Jeff, of course, it is Idaho this weekend, Battle of the Palouse. Now a once every 5 or 6 years thing. So it'll probably be a nice crowd in Martin Stadium, because there'll be a lot of Idaho fans. And so I don't know if that will impact anything, but obviously Idaho's FCS, middling Big Sky roster at this point. So Jeff, let's, with all that in mind, what is your probability prediction for Idaho at home?
Yeah. So Idaho obviously dropped down to FCS not that long ago, which was sort of seen as that's a good idea. It's where they had been, 30 years ago, right? And okay, they'll go down there, they'll be a little more competitive, and as it turns out, they actually kind of still suck, even at that level. But I mean, I'm glad we're playing Idaho. I do think it's cool and important to play Idaho. At least occasionally. I don't know that it needs to be an every year thing in football, but every few years I think is a really good idea. And all that said, they have a new coach, which is cool. They hired the guy who I want to say, all right, I'm looking here at Brian Anderson's thing real quick. I'm trying to remember. Okay, he was at South Dakota State, which was a really good FCS program. So we'll see if that guy, he was the offensive coordinator there. We'll see if that guy can inject some life into that program. If he can, I don't think it happens this weekend. So I'm going to go ahead and say this is a 100% WSU victory. I'm not even giving the 99.
You're giving a 1.0.
I'm giving a 1.0.
You're just giving a 1. Yep. All right. Well,
no chance of a loss.
Yeah. That is bold, my friend. Bold. I've seen WSU lose FCS games in the past. Now those ended up being two pretty good FCS teams. But this, I'm with you. I don't see Idaho being all that good. I'm sure even Idaho fans would agree on that. The thing about Idaho, you search Idaho football coach on Google, and it's not even registered that they have a new coach. So it still says Paul Petrino is the football coach. Even though it says on his Wikipedia that he's currently the offensive coordinator at Central Michigan. So it's pretty funny. Google's automatic. But then you scroll down and it says Eck named Vandal football's 36 head coach.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm
36 by the way. Hold on. 36.
Yeah.
Jake Dickert is the 20th. 20. They've had 20. Yeah. Which is still quite a few. But 36, man. That's a lot. If you think about it, I don't know how long they've been playing football. If you figure it's roughly 100 years-ish, that's basically a coach every 3 years. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Anyway, so I'm with you. I'm just gonna go with the full 1 here. 100% chance to win. Of course, there's never a 100% chance to win, but I'm gonna boldly, just like you, go with a 1 here. Then it gets a lot tougher. But I'm so this is a trip that I and many Cougs have been planning for 4 years, however long this game has been on the schedule. And I remember planning, like, I remember bringing it up with Marnie and Corey while we were like drinking at their house like 4 years ago. And we were like committed to it then, and we're going, and Amanda's going to her first away WSU football game, and all this stuff. So we got Brian
as it
Katie.
turns out, by the way, you really needed about 4 years of lead time to plan for this one because of the travel and lodging situation around that area. Like you kind of had to have a little vision for how you wanted to do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's Madison's a hell of a lot bigger than Pullman, but it's still, the stadium seats 80,000, and that it makes it, it's a lot like booking a hotel in Pullman. You got to kind of do. I booked my hotel like almost like 10 months in advance. And
you're staying in Madison?
I am staying in Madison. Yep.
Oh, that's awesome. A lot of people staying in Chicago.
Well, we're flying into Chicago, and then we're going up. We're staying a night in Chicago with a friend, and then we're going up to Madison to stay for a couple nights. If anyone out there needs a hotel in Madison, I booked 2 of them. I have it for Thursday through Sunday. I still have it. I could put it in your name. Reach out to me on Twitter if you want it. It's not cheap. It's like $300 a night. But if you really need a hotel in Madison, let me know. Otherwise, I'm just going to cancel it because I already got mine. And I always book multiple. I do it for Pullman too. I've already had people that are using my other hotels that I've booked. I'm covering all my bases. Don't worry.
Smart man.
Yeah. But I think there's going to be quite a few Cougs there. It's going to be a nice traveling contingent. We will not be particularly noticeable in what is it, Camp Randall. We're just not going to, our section's not going to be too dissimilar in colors from their sections. So that'll be interesting. I know obviously this is the 3rd time WSU has traveled here in recent memory. Or is it 2nd or 3rd? Maybe I'm just 2007. And did we go another time in between? Was there another trip in between? I think this is it.
Yeah. No,
okay. So this is the 2nd time. And then hopefully they come back. We'll see.
I think they will. I really think they will. I keep saying that.
Yeah, I think also. I really think they will. The revenue from the luxury box, the luxury seating, it makes a huge difference. We're gonna have so much more revenue to share. The TV revenue, all that stuff. Like there's just gonna be more revenue to share versus past years. So we'll see. That'll be awesome if they do. But let's. So Wisconsin currently ranked number 18. So it's not, they're always a top 25-ish program. They will be, they're always, tough. They have big boys on the line. Tough inside. A program that likes to run the ball and all that. Classic Big Ten program. So pretty scary in that regard. So Jeff, thinking about Wisconsin, going with your head and not your heart, what you would love to see. What's your probability here?
Well, I think this is the first game where the cracks in the offensive line show up a little bit. I do like our defense's chances to at least hold fairly stout at first. I know we're not like huge on defense, but I think that we are, stout enough up front that we can perhaps do some things to contain the running attack at least a little bit. But, Wisconsin is one of those teams where it's like, they're just going to keep pounding you, right? Like it's like a sledgehammer putting cracks in a wall, and then eventually the wall crumbles and falls down. And so I kind of like this game maybe being close for a half. and feeling, kind of okay. Maybe I don't think the offense is going to be able to do a whole lot, but also I think the defense will look like it's doing okay. Maybe it's like a 7-point game at halftime, 4-point game at halftime, something like that. And but I think in the second half it sort of like kind of falls apart. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and give us a 20% chance of winning. I think it's close-ish for a good portion of the game, but I just think that Wisconsin's gonna kind of wear us out with what they do, and I think the defense is going to be on the field too long, and so. But in a close game like that, the 20% I think accounts for a little bit of the variance. When you're playing a team that likes to control the ball and whatever. I mean, you get a couple turnovers, all of a sudden it's pretty different. So. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm giving it a little bit higher than you because I'm going to be there, yelling my lungs out, going to the Cougar pregame before, get to test out Wisconsin's cheese. They make at the University of Wisconsin against Cougar Gold. They're offering that at the Cougar tailgate. I'm excited for that. Be nice and sauce. It's an early game, 2:30 local time there. But we'll be having fun. So I'm going to give us an extra 0.05 boost. So I'm giving a 25% chance. And you have 20% chance. So that brings us to Colorado State, back at home. Which I think this will probably be of all the four early home games. This I think without a doubt will be the most sparsely attended, but hopefully the one that you're at, Colorado State. Colorado State was 3-9 last year, not a very good team. Where they are at this year, I couldn't tell you that much, but given that they were 3-9 last year, haven't been very good all of that recently. Do have terrible memories of them from the New Mexico Bowl. So there, I think there's some Kook fans that still cannot get over that game, even though there have been some other many. Yeah,
Brian led especially his post, and he said it's nearly a decade later, and I'm still genuinely upset by what happened in the New Mexico Bowl.
And I think especially the fans that were there, that is so. I think of and unfortunately, I know for sure. I'm pretty sure Brian's not going to go to this game, so he's not even going to be able to get some catharsis in person. But there's definitely be some Kook fans looking for some healing here. When we play Colorado State, Colorado State not very good. We're at home, not going to be a great crowd, I don't think. But still being at home is still being at home. How are you feeling probability wise, Colorado State?
This is feeling like prime letdown territory because you got you go to Wisconsin, you're going to be super amped for that one. Probably going to lose, right? You're going to come back. It's going to be the Colorado State game, which is the third game of the season, but is a run of 3 home games in 4 weeks. Right, the next week is Oregon. So as you mentioned, this one
4 and 5. It's 4 and 5 weeks.
Yes, that's right. 4 and 5. Homecoming the following week, right, against Cal. So it's 4 and 5. If people are not going to a game, this is the one, right? So probably the crowd, as you mentioned, going to not be super great. I think this is prime letdown. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean I think they're going to lose, but I do think that this is sort of a bit of a trap game. So I'm going to go ahead and give them a 70% chance of winning this game, which is still pretty high, but maybe it should be a little bit lower, but. Yeah, this one scares me a bit. Not because I think Colorado State is necessarily good, but they do have a pretty good coach, and at least a guy who I think is a pretty good coach, in Jay Norvell, and it's just a real. It's just situated in a spot where you just played Wisconsin. The crowd's going to be kind of a lull. You got Oregon the next week. I don't know, man. This is prime overlooked territory.
Yeah. Given all that, I feel the same way. And
I'm going to revise. By the way, I'm going to take it down to 60%. 60. Give me 60.
Okay.
I'm going to take it to 60.
Yeah,
I talked myself.
That's
into
actually. That's actually where I was going to. 60%.
We're actually the same.
So,
we're actually the same person. So.
Yeah. So, So I was thinking 60. I was definitely this one. I do not feel good about this. Hopefully, because sandwiched between two of the biggest games of the season. You're just they're gonna get mashed and mauled in Wisconsin, and it's gonna be
might be carrying some injuries.
Got kind of early start, 2 p.m. start, all that stuff. Well, yeah. So next we have another tough one, but this should be a very good crowd. This should probably be a near sellout crowd or close to it, I assume, because Oregon will, in all likelihood, be ranked pretty highly. It depends on how their early season goes, but they do have some tough ones. Obviously, ahead of WSU, they play at Georgia. They host BYU. So they definitely have some tough games before WSU. So where they'll be ranked, who knows? But say they'll probably lose to Georgia. Is that at Georgia, or is it like one of those neutral sites? I forget.
I believe. Ooh, that's a good question. I do know it's in Georgia.
It's a Chick-fil-A kickoff game.
It's
at Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Yeah, it's probably in Atlanta.
Stadium. Yeah. But it's the Georgia home game. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, of course.
Yeah, at least they won't have to be. Mercedes-Benz Stadium's a dome, right? So at least they're not going to have to be outside in the humidity of the South in Labor Day weekend. But anyways, so that game. So it'll be fourth game of the season. I think fans are always hyped for us to play Oregon. Doesn't really matter where they're ranked. They're just one of those programs now. So they're going to be good. Oregon's good. Obviously, they've been recruiting really, really well, and there's going to be a talent disparity there. WSU seems to play Oregon well. To me, there's some of it is like all these kids grew up and Oregon is like the program that they see all the time. And so now they like to get up for playing Oregon. So that's always my theory on that. But still really good. And so what is your probability prediction for Oregon at home?
So Oregon is kind of interesting to me. I wish I was making this prediction after I saw them play against Georgia. I don't know. Maybe that's not the best idea, just also because, I don't know how instructive it is that, whatever they do against Georgia in Georgia, that may or may not be all that instructive anyway. But, I'm really curious to see about Oregon. Dan Lanning, obviously new head coach, really talented defensive mind. Oregon's got plenty of talent on defense. The offense is the question mark, right? So, I'm not really totally sure exactly what they are. I'm probably higher on Oregon, I think, than a lot of people are, because a lot of people think they're pretty clearly a step behind Utah. I tend to think that they might be able to run with Utah. I think it's going to be them and Utah in the Pac-12 championship, and I actually picked them to beat Utah. So I feel like Oregon is actually going to be pretty damn good. And so because of all of that, I'm going to go with let's go with a 30%. 30%.
30%.
That's
30%. Yeah, and given they're at home, I'll give them a little bit of a boost too. I'll go 35%. It's going to be a good crowd. People are going to be hyped. The players will be hyped about it. Our offensive line is terrifying in this game. That's a big question mark, but we'll know more about the offensive line by the time we get to this game. But yeah, it's so 35%. And now we're moving on to Cal. This should be another good crowd. Homecoming. It's that's always good crowd. Cal is a weird program, and we have got the Cal bullshit. So you have to factor that into your probability. Cal bullshit. Is Cal good? John Wilner always hopes they are, but they're probably not. And so it's Cal, so it's just hard to think logically about this game. But do your best, and put a probability on it.
Yeah, well, I like the fact, we did mention it's the fourth, the last of the 4 and 5, right? But it is homecoming, so that tends to bring out a pretty good crowd. So I'm sure that was strategically decided to make sure that people show up. So I like that idea. And then I just I have this general philosophy of that you are what you are until you clearly prove to me otherwise. So, for years and years and years, I picked us to beat Utah, right? Because we just seem to have Utah's number. And I'm like, well, until Utah proves to me that they're not the team that we somehow figure out a way to beat, then I'm just going to keep picking us right now. Eventually that changed, but it's the same place I am with Oregon State. And honestly, it's kind of the same place I am with Cal. Now I know we've lost to Cal, right? You referenced the famous Cal bullshit, but it's to me, Cal is what it is until I see something different, So Cal is still a defense forward team with an extremely questionable offense that will probably it'll probably be a close game. I still think we're the better team, and maybe we win, maybe we don't. But if we're just going straight talent, I'm gonna go 60% chance of winning that game. Maybe 55 is the smarter play, but I'm gonna go 60 just because I can't stand Cal.
Yeah, I'm just going to toss up, 50%. Also, I'm looking at that CSU, and I'm I can't put Cal above CSU. I don't know why. So 50% toss up here. The Cal bullshit, could swing it.
You
even
just can't
the Cal
predict
bullshit,
the Cal bullshit.
You can't.
It just is what it is, and it shows up when it shows up.
And last year the Cal bullshit kind of was in WSU's favor a bit, so you just never know what's going to happen. Then we have a tough road game the next weekend at USC. USC is another team where you're not really totally sure how good they're going to be. They have a ton of transfers, new coach. USC is always going to be ranked high based on their talent. But we've seen them underperform for so many years. Maybe Lincoln Riley doesn't let them, maybe they finally don't underperform. They definitely, they brought in I saw there's 19 transfers in their 2 deep, so which is insane. But that probably won't matter by the 6th game of the year. But yeah, it's just USC at USC. Always just I've been to USC, watched WSU beat USC in the Coliseum, but other than that, it always just seems like it's just a really tough place. WSU doesn't get calls there very often. Although I'm of the opinion that USC and UCLA should not get a single fucking call for the next 2 seasons. But that's not what Klyakov said. But we don't need to make them look better for the Big Ten. But yeah, so WSU at USC, tough road match. I think WSU's won there 5 times all time, maybe less than that actually.
One of which you were at.
One of which I was at. One of which was in 1997.
Yeah.
I don't know when the other ones were.
The famous catch in the block.
The catch in the block. I don't know when the other ones were. But yeah, so Jeff, what's your probability prediction for at USC?
Yeah, so because of all the things you mentioned again, I don't really know what USC is. All the transfers, et cetera, et cetera. I do think that, obviously a ton of talent on offense, but I think the defense is really questionable. Like the talent level there, I think is questionable. And I know we still have a lot of fans who still sort of worship Alex Grinch, but he was like, for the life of me, I still can't figure out why Lincoln Riley brought him to USC.
Yeah.
Because if you look at those Oklahoma teams, it's like the defense is not great. And if we're being, really honest, the defense was the weak point,
Yeah, for sure.
So Lincoln Riley obviously believes in something with Grinch, and that's fine. But I don't know, man. Like I like our chances. I probably like our chances a little better in this game than probably most people will. Just because, like I said, I think that USC is going to have a great offense. The defense, I think, is super questionable. So I'm going to go ahead and give us a 35% chance of winning that game. 35%. I think it's still like a 1-3 situation, but 1-3. I mean, you tell me 1-3 of winning in Los Angeles. We don't have a 1-3 track record down there, so I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think that we still have a lot of Southern California guys on the team, and This is their chance to play in front of their families. That's always a big deal. I don't know how dominant USC is going to be this year. You just perpetually assume they're going to underperform whatever people think they are. So if they're a top 15 team right now, maybe they're actually like a 25-ish team. And if they're the 25-ish team, you think WSU has a lot better chance of beating. So I'm with you. I'm going to do 30. I'm going to do 35% for this. Against maybe a defense, that maybe our offense, because it's weird to say. I think our offense is going to be the weak side this year. And in the past, it's always like, want to play those teams that have, good offense, bad defense like we do. But now it's like, maybe we want to play the teams that have like a bad offense so our good defense can keep the score down for our other teams. So that's what gives me, I'd rather play the bad defenses. And given what the talent that he had to work with at Oklahoma and the results that he produced, I don't know what's going on with Grinch. He did some great things at WSU. He also had some pretty epic bad games at WSU too, but also true. So because he does play a bit, he does have a style that can lend itself to that. If something's not working, it blows up in his face. So we'll move on to Oregon State. It's been now 8 wins in a row of Oregon State. This is at Corvallis. Everyone is believing that Oregon State is on the right track. Sometimes I think this is just there's like this kind of mythos of like a good assistant that journalists really like. And so they just put this like belief in that he's always doing the right thing and he's turning the program around. And like, in fairness, Jonathan Smith has improved Oregon State. But last year, everyone thought they were the next big thing. And then, they went to Pullman and lost.
Yep.
And they ended up finishing, third in the Pac-12 North. Yep. And so it's are they there yet? I don't know. We'll see. I think they're better than they were. it's tough to play. Even when Oregon State's bad, playing at Corvallis is tough. WSU has rarely came out of there with an easy win. Yeah. And even in the stretch of 8 in a row, the Corvallis ones have been pretty hairy.
Yep.
And so have some of the Pullman ones. Like, the last few years, the miraculous comeback on senior night to get bowl eligibility. Last year, it took, a stop on the final drive and like a second half kind of offensive explosion to beat them. But so it's like, what does WSU have enough to keep it going? You want to believe that they do, but if there was any a season that the streak is going to stop, this is where you're kind of feeling the least comfortable about this long streak we have over Oregon State.
Yeah.
So given that, Jeff.
Yeah. I would feel a lot better if it was in Pullman. I would also feel a lot better if it was on the road, but not the second of back-to-back road games. And I would feel even better if it wasn't the second of back-to-back road games, with the previous road game being at USC. So, that, like, when you put all that together, I think this is the year that Oregon State finally gets us. If this game was at home without all those other factors, I'd be like, yeah, it's probably 50-50, 55-45, something in that area. Now, it's kind of back to what we were talking about with the, okay, when you make your game predictions, you predict wins and losses, very binary, right? I'm going to go ahead and give the Cougs a 45% chance. I don't think like Oregon State is clearly better. I don't think that they're destined to go in there and get ambushed, but I do think that Oregon State, that this sets up favorably for them. On the other side of us is Stanford the week before, and Stanford's not great. And Colorado on the other side. Colorado's really not great. And this is a school that has players who have never beaten us. And that is going to be a point of contention. That is going to be a point of motivation. And I really, just kind of with what we have leading into it, with what they have surrounding it, with it being on the road, I'm going to go ahead and go 45%. I think we probably lose, but I still think it's close and something approximating a toss-up.
Yeah, I want to say, they're going to lose, but in respect for the streak, I'm giving it a toss-up 50%. Because I would love
there. That's almost what I did too.
Because I would love to make it 9 in a row over, and to WSU to have this long of a football streak over any other Pac-12 school is insane. And to have it be a regional kind of rival, which Oregon State could definitely be much more of a rival than people want it to be. Sometimes I wonder, like, why isn't it more of a rival? I think it's just because of the West Coast football kind of nature. But because I think if this was an equivalent in like the South or the Midwest, like these two schools would absolutely hate each other. There would be some trophy involved and all that stuff.
Yep. There is a trophy.
I do know
involved. There is a trophy. I cannot remember what it's called, but there is one. Like it's like it actually had. There's like a name for this thing, but
maybe we've already. I feel like we've already went over this.
I think we did. So anyway, continue. I'll look it up while you're talking.
Yeah. There's an article from 2020 on CFC that says Prof says after 117 years, WSU and OSU should play for a trophy. So maybe they don't play for a trophy.
Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But they should. I agree. Did you know that it's the Platypus Trophy for the Oregon State-Oregon rival? That's fantastic.
You know what?
I did not know
just
that.
seeing that because we probably Googled the same thing trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
And I see that now.
That's fantastic because platypus is kind of like a duck beaver. That's amazing.
Yes.
With like a stinger because it's from Australia.
Yeah, I love it.
So it should have a trophy. Played that many damn years, played each other a million times. One of the few teams that WSU has a winning record over in the conference. I think the only team. Maybe Utah still. I don't know. But yeah. So Oregon State, I give 50-50. You almost. Now we move on to a Pac-12 scheduling special.
Yep.
Utah, who's currently ranked in the top 10, on a Thursday night in Pullman. Yes. So there's going to be no one there.
Yep.
There'll be students, but that it's Utah. Even if Utah's ranked highly, it's still like it's not like the name brand recognition. But yeah, this is just going to be. I'm definitely trying to make it there. I'll probably like work in Pullman on that Thursday, and then like I'll go over Wednesday night, work in Pullman on Thursday, work in Pullman on Friday.
That sounds awesome.
Because I started to start a new job. I don't have a ton of PTO built up yet. But yeah, so that's going to be an interesting one. I was even going to have that issue because all the PTO I took for other, getting married and shit earlier in the year. But yeah, so man, the Thursday games, not the best of situations. Definitely, obviously, a TV focused thing, which is fine in metropolitan areas where people can just get off work and go to the game. But that's not the case in Pullman. So yeah, it will definitely impact attendance, and it sucks because it's our only home game in like a month and a half stretch, and it's a Thursday game, which is just so fucking annoying. But that's after the bye, so their one bye is not like even like a true bye, but so yeah, Utah at home. Utah's pretty good. Everyone thinks they're going to be like a dark horse CFP contender this year. So given that, what's your? Oh, you're on mute. So I'm just gonna keep talking.
No, I'm back. I'm back.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I would like our chance a lot better if Utah wasn't also coming off a bye, like we are.
Yeah.
But Utah's coming off a bye, but the previous game is against USC. Obviously, that's going to be a big premier, massive, Pac-12 South matchup, or at least we think it's going to be. And then, of course, they got to come to Pullman on a Thursday night. So the fact that they're going on the road Thursday night, coming off a big game, even with a bye, I think there's a chance that this is, that this is closer than we think. Maybe we get some of that air raid voodoo that we had with Mike Leach against Utah, that turned out fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and give us a 40% chance of beating Utah that night.
Ooh.
Little Thursday night weirdness.
Yeah.
Because I do think Utah's going to be very good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not quite that confident. I also think Utah's going to be very good. If this was a Saturday game and the crowd was hyped and full and packed and the atmosphere was there, I just don't think we're going to have that.
I think that might work in our favor, to be honest. Like sometimes a dead crowd can have as much of an effect on the road team as the home team. So.
Fair enough.
They're not going to want to be. They're not going to want to be there on a Thursday night, right?
That's true.
So I don't know.
But I'm giving us, even at home, I'll give us a 35% chance to win. I'm just you saw when they released. It was funny when they did the Pac-12, the release schedule show. There was like one graphic that said it was 27, 28, or 29th. And then they like quickly changed it to say the 29th, and everyone was like, "Oh, that one's going to be on Thursday." We haven't had a Thursday game in a long time. We're kind of due for one. That's definitely going to be a Thursday game, and then it, sure enough, was a Thursday game. Then after that, WSU goes back on the road and heads down to the Bay Area to another team that they have a nice winning streak over. I believe it's 5 at this point, right? To play Stanford. Once mighty, not so mighty anymore. Definitely predicted towards the bottom of the conference by many prognosticators, but it is a road game. But they do get kind of a longer time period. It's kind of like a mini bye going into this game, since they do get the weekend off ahead of it. So they head to Stanford. This is going to be a huge game for Bull Hopes, I think. Yep. It's going to be late in the season. We're going to be looking at this one like, yeah, we need this. So given that, what's your thoughts on Stanford?
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about Stanford being better this year. They of course finished very badly last year. Part of it was us beating them, but they lost to a lot of other people to close out the season. I remain unconvinced that somehow like everything's going to be fine. Like they've been trending the wrong direction to me for too long. It's not like they just had one season. It was like, oh man, just so weird. Like bad results one season, injuries, whatever. They've been trending this way for a while. And the identity that they had of, strong running attack, but more than that, the really punishing defense, those two things have not been there. And to me, the most concerning is the defense, that they haven't done that. So that's one thing. I still think Stanford's going to be pretty weak. And then as Brian Anderson points out, I love these kinds of things. The week before, Stanford is going to be at UCLA. The week after, they're going to be at Utah. And then after Utah, they've got their big game against Cal, and then they finish against BYU. Little old WSU is just kind of sitting there. They've got the same situation as Oregon State with a bunch of people that have never beat us. But I just it doesn't feel as urgent to me as Oregon State does. As I mentioned, I think Oregon State's going to be super motivated for that game. I do not think that Stanford's going to be in that same spot. So I think, where I might be inclined to make us, maybe make it sort of a 50-50 game down there, I'm going to make us a slight favorite at 55%.
Yeah, I think Stanford is bad. Yeah, I think they're going to be pretty bad. I feel like, I agree with you. I don't think Stanford's going to have that same fire. I think maybe some of the coaching staff will try to impose that on them, but I think a lot of the Stanford players are like, it's still WSU. What are you talking about?
I feel that way too.
And then I think the same goes for their fans. It's not going to be the atmosphere that WSU will face Oregon State when which always WSU that's pretty volatile and stuff. So yeah, I'm going to go 60% WSU win this game. I think they'll really need it, and I think that on the balance they should win it, and hopefully they do. Then they come back home. It's our favorite time of year to play Arizona schools in Pullman is in November, and that is one favor that somehow the Pac-12, with all the stupid crap they do with WSU schedules, they almost always put the Arizona schools in Pullman in November, which, thank you. That's that we definitely, because we hate going down there. It's a nightmare to go down there, but it's always, we get that other way around where Arizona schools have to come and play WSU when it is really cold outside. And it very clearly affects them because, they've had some rough, Arizona's had some rough games up here. Arizona State's had some rough games up here. So yeah, Arizona State, another team, you're like, I don't really know. They're kind of a middling team. So I like that. I think these are going to be two teams that'll be fighting for bowl eligibility here. So that'll put some more importance on this game. So Arizona State, Jeff, at home, November 12th. What are you thinking?
I think that Arizona State is going to crash and burn this season. This is a program that's heading in the wrong direction of Herm Edwards. Lots and lots and lots of program turmoil, NCAA investigation. It's just all of these reasons why Arizona State maybe, and they had lots of transfers out too. That was the other thing. large amount of coaching turnover, large amounts of transfers out, including Jaden Daniels heading out. The one guy I thought, made them, potentially really special, and we beat him last year. So on the road in our house of horrors. So all of those things together, when I project out Arizona State's season, and I think they are probably going to be worse than we think, I tend to think they're going to be circling the drain when they come to Pullman at that point. I don't know if Herm Edwards will be fired at that point, but he could be well on his way to being fired. So I'm going to go ahead and give us a 60% chance of winning that game at home in November.
Yeah,
in the freezing cold.
Yeah, I have even higher hopes than you. Because I just love the fact that, like you said, like their program's headed the wrong direction, and they got to come and play in the cold and probably rain in Pullman. It's just going to be probably gross weather. It's probably this has 7 p.m. start written all over it. 7:30 start written all over it. 7:30 Pac-12 network start all over it. So I'm loving that. So I'm gonna go 70% to BSU. I feel very good. Like as soon as the schedule was released, I was like, yeah, that's a one. I like that one right there.
Yep.
And so this is then we get to the penultimate game of the season, which is a weird one. It is a weird one. Arizona has been god awful for many years. Like near Paul Wolf level awful program. But they have worked that transfer portal, and they added a lot of guys, including Jaden Delora. And so that will be interesting if Jaden's healthy and playing in this game against WSU. That adds a little bit of flavor to everything. We always love Jaden Delora for beating the Huskies, but he's gonna definitely have some motivation. He's that type of guy, that type of personality. He's gonna use that chip, against the Cougs, even though he's the one that left or whatever. But so
in theory,
yeah. This will be an interesting one in Tucson. It never liked playing in the desert ever, even against some bad Arizona teams. It's never liked doing that. And we don't get that advantage. It's November. It's going to be hot. So Arizona, November 19th, Apple Cup the next week. What are you thinking?
I think the Cougs still have a talent advantage. I still think that Arizona is a ways away from being truly competitive. We've seen what it takes to take your program from historically awful to competitive, right? Like Mike Leach showed up. We got into a bowl game the second year, but that was, that was tenuous, right? As signified by the following year going 3 wins again. It is tough to crawl out of a really deep hole, and I just think Arizona is not there yet. Now, I do think there is, as you mentioned, some potential for some Jaden Delora magic, where he's super duper motivated. He's an emotional kid. We saw that over and over. Obviously very talented. I do know that part of what's going on there's some rumblings that maybe Delora's not picking up the offense quite as quickly as Jedd Fisch would like. Jedd Fisch is a guy who comes from the NFL. Those guys tend to have, notoriously complicated offenses. So I'm real curious to kind of see how that goes down. I like our chances in this one a lot, actually. I still think Arizona's going to be pretty bad. I think that, even though Delora is going to be motivated, I still don't think that's quite enough. And in fact, I think, as we saw with him last year, sometimes when he's overly hyped, he makes mistakes. So, I'm going to vote for overly hyped here and go for Cougs, 60% chance of winning on the road in this game. Which
60% on the road.
Yeah, that's high for the road, but also maybe seems kind of low for the talent. And so I'm trying to kind of account for the Jaden DeLora factor in case maybe he just plays out of his mind.
Yeah, it's hard for me to put any road game above 50-50, so I'm just gonna go 50-50 totally on here.
That's totally fair.
So yeah, I'll go 50-50. Yeah, and it's the end of the year. Like we get to the 11th game, your roster may be looking, your two deep is looking very different from what it did in game one. So we don't even know, so I'm going 50-50. And that brings us to a game historically when we've done this has gotten no more than a 0, but
0%.
Thanks in part to our buddy Jaden DeLora. It is now like a whole new world of possibilities in the Apple Cup. We could dream of a time with WSU because we literally could just we don't have to think about how, young our children were or that our children didn't exist, or anything like that. When we beat UW, both my children were alive the last time we beat UW, and one of them's only a year and a half old. This game is a whole different feel than it did when we've done these predictions before. Not this automatic 0. Maybe you're going to give it a 0. I don't think I'm going to do that this time, but yeah. So the Apple Cup, UW, they weren't good last year. As people still want to believe they're going to be, they still got predicted like pretty high by a lot of people. They want them to be good, but yeah, they were 4-8 last year. So I don't, and they were every bit of 4-8. Yeah, they had some turmoil, but they have a new coach. I probably for a lot of Huskies, for UW's pedigree, like a pretty underwhelming hire, to be honest. But he's a good coach. But he's kind of a bit recruited like a Mountain West coach moving to a Power 5 school, which WSU has seen itself. So, maybe UW isn't getting quite that talent advantage that it may have had in the past. Still, they still have a lot of very highly regarded players on their team. It hasn't quite clicked for them. A lot of prognosticators see them bouncing back a bit this year. We'll see. I don't think they're a 4-8 team, but I could see them being better than that. But still, WSU beat their fucking ass last year at UW. And let's, given that, where are you going this year?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not buying this idea that, they were just, so poorly coached and dysfunctional that you just, get a functioning coach in there and everything's going to be fine. I'm just not buying that. I watched them play multiple times last year. I watched them play against us. A team does not lose, 40-13 just because they're just not feeling it, right? There is a talent situation going on there, where they're not what they were in terms of talent. And so, yeah, are they, did coaching maybe cost them I just don't see how you can make the argument that, on talent, that was an 8-win team or a 9-win team, and the coaching and dysfunction cost them 5 games. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
You could definitely say that Peterson was not recruiting at the level that his predecessors were recruiting, and it was, he's a very good coach, but he left, and then when Lake comes in, and now it's just. They didn't have those top recruiting classes. They're not landing all the top kids from Washington like they used to.
Yeah, and they're starting Michael Penix Jr. as I'm watching Jake Haener, play for Fresno State. Right? It's
That's so funny.
I don't know, man. When we say, oh yeah, they're going to bounce back. What are we talking? Are we talking Are they going to go back to winning 9 games, or are we talking oh well, maybe they'll contend for bowl eligibility? I tend to sort of think it's like that. So I'm gonna go 50-50. I'm gonna go straight 50% Apple Cup Pullman Saturday. Apple Cup Pullman, which means we might actually have some fucking students in the stands after Thanksgiving, maybe. So I'm going to go 50-50.
Well, you're going to make them come back a day early on their Thanksgiving break when they're going to go back home in 2 weeks after that.
Yeah. It's asking a lot, I know.
I know. But just remember, students, coming back to Pullman when you don't have classes is just super fun. It's super fun.
Yeah. It's like
always advocate for that. Yeah. Especially the football game. You get the automatic party atmosphere. UW, the Apple Cup, just the intensity. Wonderful stuff. I think there'll be a good contingent of students
I think
there.
So too.
And I definitely, it'll be sold out on the alumni side. Yeah, this is the only game that matters for a lot of our fans, which I feel for them there. But yeah, it's just still hard for me. I'm going to go 50-50 as well. It's a rivalry. Anything can happen. So we're going 50-50. So what I'm going to do now is sum up our totals here, and
this
then we'll
is
get
going to come out higher on my end than I thought it would. It's going to come out more optimistic than I thought.
What do you think? Where would you have thought you would have or what did you do game by game for your Coug Center pick'em?
So I've not done it yet, but I figured I would probably end up right around 6-6. I'm thinking, just off the top of my head, am I over 7?
No.
Am I close to 7?
No. Actually, you are
really?
almost right on 6-6. We're both almost right on 6-6.
Okay.
You're at 6. You're at 6.15, and I'm at 6.2. So
that's hilarious.
Which honestly, yeah, I would definitely take.
Okay, so that feels about right to me.
Yeah, I would definitely take a 6-6 out of this season. This is a new coach, new offense, shaky in some positions. It's 6-6 to get to a bowl game again would be fantastic. Keep that kind of streak of non-COVID seasons alive. With and so that would be great. So yeah, 6.2 for me, 6.15 for you. It's funny. I always have a number in my head before I ask you, and then you're so close to my number every single time. So
we are the same person.
Yeah.
People don't know this.
So yeah, that took a lot longer than I thought it would. We're an hour and 7 deep already. But yeah, so given that, again, we both predicted 6-6 with our probabilities. Given that, let's now take a break, and we'll come back. And we actually got some questions from email. You guys sent us email, and we'll be excited. I have to dig back into my mentions. Someone definitely asked me a question on Twitter. I'll see if I can find that while we're on this break, and we'll be back.
Back. Woo.
Yeah. That was definitely a real break where I had time to find the question. I've totally found it now. Definitely.
Definitely not like a 5-second break where I waited and then shouted, "We're back."
No. Definitely.
Not that.
Yeah. But to give me a little bit more time. Oh, okay. I found it.
But we got to talk
give
about
me
beer
a little
anyway, so, you know.
Yeah, a little bit of time. Why don't you let me know what you're drinking?
Okay, so I am drinking, as we talked about last week. I picked up a whole bunch of beers from Single Hill, so I'm continuing my Single Hill beer journey, I guess. This is the Dorado Rama Hazy IPA. Lace up and roll out. It's got roller skates on it, which is cool, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, it's called Dorado Rama, which means it's made with some El Dorado hops. Looks like the hops came as a collaboration with CLS Farms, which I have never heard of, but maybe you're familiar with since you're a Yakima guy. Yeah, delicious hazy. A little less like fruity than hazies typically are. It's a little more bitter. It's kind of got a little bit more of that West Coast bitterness to it. But yeah, super tasty, very pleasant, and I'm glad I'm drinking it.
Very good, very good. You just do same brewery back-to-back weeks. I'm like just desperately trying to figure out if I've had a brewery before on the show. Like I think at 171 episodes, I've maybe like duplicated a brewery like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, I think that's
so. I try so hard not to, and then you just come in like I picked up a bunch of Single Hill beer last week, and I'm having another one.
Yes, indeed.
So I went down. As I said last week, it was Pilsner Fest last weekend. I made it. I just extended that thing out. There was definitely some. Sick kid type stuff. One kid hurting another kid, having to monitor the kid overnight. That kind of hampered some of the Pilsner Fest celebration, but
yep.
But definitely still got in a lot of Pilsners last weekend. But so this is one that I got in for Pilsner Fest, but I didn't quite get to. And this is a brewery called Occidental out of Portland. They are very heavily lager-focused brewery. As I said, Portland has a lot of breweries like that. This is another great one, Occidental, and this is Northwest Pilsner. This is a series they do where they'll collaborate with different breweries around the Northwest to make a Pilsner. So this one was brewed in collaboration with Little Beast Brewing, which you may have seen around. They a brewery that was previously at, I believe, Logston Farmhouse Ales, which used to be was like a legendary brewery that was focused only on like sour and saison beers early on, before a lot of other breweries were doing that. But yeah, I think he came from there and started this. They do obviously a lot of similar of those farmhouse styles, but they brew other stuff too. So this is they say it's hopped with Simcoe in the kettle and dry hop with Talus for a rich and tropical hop aroma. It's a very tasty, interesting. It's got just like a slight haze to it, a little bit hazier than you would normally think of Pilsner. I think that was intentional, to be honest. But it's very good. It's got a nice kind of very lighter, even a very, very light color. It does definitely have the tropical aroma. Very, very pleasant, good drinking pills. Enjoy it very much. So that's Occidental Brewing Co. in Portland, Northwest Pills. And before that, I had a Miami Morning Coming Down West Coast IPA from Holy Mountain. And this Holy Mountain and Here Today, which I don't think is a brewery. I don't know what that is. There used to be a time when you could not put a non-brewery. You couldn't say you were collaborating with something that wasn't another brewery. That was like against the law. So there was, if they weren't already an open brewery, you couldn't say you were collaborating with them. So that was always interesting. But I think like so many of these laws have just been kind of ignored at this point through COVID and all that. But yeah, so that's a beer we're drinking. Pilsner Fest forever, baby. So now let's move on to some questions. Jeff, I have one this could cause us to spiral, Jeff. I'll tell you that much. This is
Let's do
dangerous,
it.
but
I'm
going to ask anyway. Ben Thoen, I don't know if I'm saying your name right, buddy, but
sorry, man.
Asked me last week, and it was funny. Like he asked me before the Andershek podcast, but I didn't. We kind of talked about this, but so he asked me. He says, "I'm a true nerd and try to map out roughly how I expect minutes to be distributed for the men's hoops team. Love it, man. Love it." Again, any comments on this, and how would you expect Kamani, who wins, Kamani to factor in? Thanks. So he has a breakdown of his minutes, and so he has it by position. So he has point guard, Justin Powell playing 70% of the minutes. We'll just go position by position, Jeff. So we'll start with point guard. He has Justin Powell, 70% of the minutes. And just remember, some of these minutes could be spread across different positions for the guys, but I'll tell you when they're not. Okay. So Justin Powell and Miles Rice are not spread across multiple positions. He only has them at point guard. So he has point guard Justin Powell 70%, Miles Rice 25%, Jabe Mullins 5%, and nothing for Dylan Darling. What do you think about that? How do you feel at point guard? And if he, I don't think Kamani would be impacting the point guard minutes at all. But what do you think? How do you feel about Ben's prediction on point guard minutes right there?
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I think Darling is a prime candidate for either a red shirt or playing just sort of garbage time minutes. I think Kamani could end up as a lead guard type guy, but I don't think he's there yet. So I do think Powell dominates the minutes. I think the breakdown that makes sense to me. I think that works. We've said before, everything we've heard about Miles Rice is that he's pretty darn good. I think probably seeing Powell and Rice carry almost all of those minutes, I think is perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think that they're looking for Justin Powell to be that guy in this position, and they're hoping he's that guy. The only thing where I could see Miles Rice taking over more of those minutes is if Justin Powell is not that guy that he was at what was it?
Auburn.
Auburn, and he's more the player that he was at Tennessee. I could see Miles Rice maybe bumping it up to 35% of the minutes, getting more time on the floor, because we know the staff loves him. And then he goes, so I'll say, so he does have, remember he had Mullins 5% at point guard. He has at shooting guard, Mullins 35%, and then he has Bamba 65%. So Bamba, and then, but he does have Bamba does have some minutes at small forward as well. But Bamba 65%, Mullins 35%. I think for me, for TJ to play that many minutes at the 2, I would hope like he's taken a step forward in his ball handling ability.
Yeah, I think there's a chance he plays even more than that, to be honest.
At the 2 specifically?
Yeah, specifically. I mean, I guess 2-3, tends to be sort of interchangeable to some degree.
Yes.
With the way they run their offense, but
especially with this roster last year,
yes.
the two guards were very obviously the two guards, but like
correct.
But like this year, yeah, I think with the height they brought and everything, like it could definitely interchange it a lot more.
So I think that Bamba is going to end up being on the floor 70-75% just overall. So I think that might actually be low. I know like parsing 2-3 can be a bit of a fool's errand trying to figure out, like, was he playing the 2? Is he playing the 3? Like, so for whatever that's worth, I do think you'll see a fair number of lineups that are like we just got done talking about point guard. I think you'll see some lineups where it's, Rice, Powell, Bamba, playing those three spots. So, I think a lot of that depends on the two things you mentioned, which is how good of a point guard is Powell, right? Like if he's really that good, then maybe he's playing a ton of minutes at lead guard, and Rice is sort of a 15-minute, 18-minute type guy. But if it turns out he's actually better off the ball, and even if he's off the ball, he's not. I don't think he's going to play that same role he played at Tennessee. Like Tennessee almost had him like as a catch and shoot guy, kind of. Like if he's playing off the ball here, he's still going to have plenty of chances to make plays and pass the ball. So whatever it is, I think Bamba's going to be on the floor probably like 3/4 of the time, no matter what, whether he's playing the 2 and there's somebody bigger next to him at the 3, or whether he's playing the quote unquote 3 and Powell's next to him at the 2, or Mullins is next to him at the 2. I think those things, whatever it is, Bamba's going to be on the floor a heck of a lot.
Yeah. Which is wild to think. Bamba only played 45% of the minutes.
I know. I'm looking at that right now, and I'm like, "Holy crap!" Like I did not.
And that's
I would have thought it was more like 55.
I mean, but he did miss 5 games, so that would probably did play 55% of the minutes in the games he was actually active for. So that's probably why it feels more than what he actually played. So
in conference, it was only 40.
Yeah, because I think that's when he missed games because he only played 16 conference games, so he missed 4 of the games were in conference play. So that'll explain that. But so I tend to agree with you. I see Powell, some of his minutes potentially going to the 2, so I would see more maybe Bamba playing the same amount of minutes that he's saying here, but like more of those minutes spread to the 3. So now I'll say at the 3, he has Bamba playing 5%. He has Yakumovsky playing 50%. And I will say he doesn't have Yakumovsky playing minutes at any other position. So 50% just at the 3. And then DJ Rodman getting 40% of the minutes at the 3. And then Bamba at 5. And then the wild card here he's got is Rosario picking up a loose 5% minutes just at the 3, nowhere else. Which that could happen sometimes. In 21, I think Rosario he played 3.5% of minutes just playing like random at the end of games. They had him for like when they were trying to like foul or they wanted someone quick to get to the ball, things like that. So that 5% isn't crazy to me, but I definitely don't think he'll factor in the rotation at all. But what are you thinking on the 3 with Andre 50%, Rodman 40%, Bamba 5%, Rosario 5%?
Yeah, I think that DJ Rodman will play 0% of his minutes at the 3. I think he is pretty strictly a 4 at this point. Because I think defensively, guarding wings is kind of not where necessarily he's at. So he's essentially a floor spacing 4 at this point. It's hard to see a role, and I know like he is, he's a program guy, he's a hard worker, he does everything you ask of him. It is a little hard for me to see. To see a significant contributing role for him, simply because he is a 4. He's an undersized 4, and kind of where does that end up fitting when you think, okay, Muhammad Gay is very likely to play the bulk of his minutes at the 4, right? And the same thing kind of goes for Yakumovsky too, where it's like he's pretty much a 4 at this point too. So there's going to be a minute crunch. Because when you think of the 5, obviously Gay can play some minutes at the 5, but I think that's mostly going to go to Jackson and we didn't get a good pronunciation here, so I'm just going to go with AD, Adrame D, because I don't know how to pronounce his name. But I think those two guys are going to play the bulk of the minutes at the 5. I don't think there's going to be a ton of minutes available there. And I think if there are minutes available there, I think they're mostly going to go to Yakimovsky. So all that to say, I'm not really sure, kind of how that fits there for him. I do think Yakimovsky will play some at the 3. Certainly, I think he's more likely to play some minutes at the 3 than Rodman. But I also think that, Kamani, I think, is a really good candidate to play a bunch of those minutes at the 3. I don't think it's a lot, but I think I could easily see him playing 15 to 20 a game at that spot.
Yeah. It definitely, he asked, where does Kamani fit? And, they do have him listed as a guard on the, so, I could see him fitting in that 2-3 area, picking up, and I also see Bamba playing more than 5% of minutes at the 3. I could see Bamba being more in the 15-20 range here. This is where it's tough. You feel like Andre is poised for, a breakout, but also you're I don't know where the minutes are coming from, man.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because, with Bamba's defensive capability and his rising offensive capability, it's hard to get him off the floor. And Andre, one of his primary positions is where, Bamba is. And same with Rodman, he's still, he played 40% of the minutes last year, and he's one of those plus minus guys, and they love plus minus, and he's going to get on the floor, And so this is one of the toughest spots. This 2-3 is so tough. This is where most of their guys, this 2-3-4, you have guys that are 3-4 and some 2-3s, and then that just makes this 3 position just a cluster of players. But it also means they can have a lot of lineup versatility here, which is really nice. Because you could put Bamba there, or you could put, if you did slot Rodman in there. But I agree with you. I think if he's playing the 3, then probably Yakimovsky's playing the 4. If they're but I don't know if those guys would be on the floor as much. Together.
I just don't think Rodman's got the foot speed to guard a wing. He's awesome. He's super high effort. Love having him. I just don't think he can guard guys at the 3.
Yeah, and so I could, this is the toughest one to predict. And like you said, it kind of blends between positions, but I do see Yakimovsky. He's got Yakimovsky 50% at the 3 and nowhere else. I do see Yakimovsky somehow finding 40 to 50% of the minutes somewhere.
I do.
Especially if he's hitting 40+% from 3. They're not going to take him off the floor. And he rebounds well. He defends serviceably. He will he's not a net detriment on defense. And what Robin has not done he had his sophomore year, he hit 3s, but if you look at the other 2 years, he has struggled to hit 3s, massively inconsistent. He'll have one big game where he hits 6 and then do nothing for weeks. And if he's not hitting 3s, it's really tough. He did shoot a lot more 2s last year, and he was very good at putbacks. So if he can be that guy, he'll find his way to the floor. And that's Yakimovsky is the same way. If he can elevate his putback game and his 2-point finishing game, it'll be tough for him to get him off the floor. So this is a tough place. Guys that do contribute, but I do see Bamba getting more than 5% of his minutes at the 3, or 5% of minutes at the 3. This Yakimovsky, I think he'll get some at the 4. Rodman will get some at the 4. But this guy, Ben does have Rodman getting 10% at the 4. And then he has Mohamed Gay 60%, Adrame 30%. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think
he does have Mohamed Gay He has Gay getting some minutes at the 5 and Andrame getting some minutes at the 5.
Yeah. So the question is, how many minutes, kind of overall is Gay going to play? He played 60% of the minutes in Pac-12 play last year. I think they'd probably rather have him. I would think he's probably going to be pushing 70-75% overall. And I think that probably, I don't know, at least 2/3 of those minutes come at the 4. So we, I would say that, yeah, that's maybe a little low for the percentage of minutes at the 4. I think he's gonna, tackle at least. Well, maybe it's not low. Now I'm kind of thinking about it. I'm like, okay, so you're kind of trying to figure out the math here, right?
So he has Gay for 10% of the minutes at the 5.
Yeah.
So that puts him at 70% total. Which that's really for a big.
That's probably about right, actually. Yeah.
Bit outside of like low major programs where the big is like 6'5", like you don't see bigs get over 70% that often.
Not very often. So yeah, I think that's probably about right.
And so Dion.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to play any
Andrame.
minutes at the 4. I don't think he's going to play any minutes at the 4 because I think any minutes that don't go to Gay go to Yakimovsky and Rodman. So.
Yeah. I would agree with that. So I'd probably put like Yakimovsky at like 20 and Rodman at 20 there. And then at center, I think so. I think on talent and on, if everything goes right, he's got Deshaun Jackson at 65%. I could believe that, but I have to see Deshaun Jackson get through a whole season healthy first.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because Deshaun Jackson, as a freshman, played 55% of the minutes in conference play. So I could definitely see him as a junior playing 65% of the total minutes. But we gotta see that actually happen. And so he has Deshaun Jackson 65% at the 5, Mohamed Gay 10%, Mel Heyman Crispin, however you would say that in French, 20%, and Andrame 5%. So yeah,
Andrame is going to be, I think, much higher than that. Like way higher than that. The Frenchman Hammond, I don't know. Like I don't know how that name is pronounced. I don't speak French, so I think he is a guy who's really just gonna. I don't know. I think he probably ends up playing very minimal minutes. If there's an injury, obviously that's a different.
I could see
Deshaun Jackson.
I could see most of his. Yeah, I could see most of his minutes either injury or just in non-conference play.
Yep. So if Deshaun Jackson gets poked in the eye again or whatever, then okay, now all of a sudden he's picking up some meaningful minutes. But I tend to think, and I watched. There's always a danger in watching video and thinking you're an expert. But when I watched the guy, really nice passer, kind of a high post presence kind of guy, really brings a different element to the floor. And so I could see him maybe being deployed in a game where they look at the floor and go, we could really use a really excellent passing big in this very specific instance. But he's not, as near as I can tell, he's not a fantastic rebounder yet. Not a fantastic scorer yet. Just a really good kind of solid fundamental facilitator kind of guy. So I think there may be games where that's useful, but I think it's probably not going to be that many. And I think especially once conference play rolls around, I don't think you're going to see him play very much.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Deshaun more around 60. I could see Gay 10% at the 5 with his 60% at the 4, and then Andrame kind of collecting maybe like 25% of the 5, and then maybe the rest for between the 4 and 5 for Mail. Just getting minutes somewhere, and then Kamani. I could see him getting 30-40% minutes just distributed between the 2 and the 3 and the 1, maybe even. It just depends on his ball handling ability and everything. they seem to be very high on him. So but you never know. This is, again, they have, especially the 2 to 4, there's a lot of guys. It's not going to be an easy job for them to figure out how to play them. So it'll be interesting. And then, the point guard will be interesting with Rice. They love him. Like, what if he is really good? Like, maybe he's going to just steal minutes. We don't know. Again, Ben, thank you for the question. We did spend a lot of time on that. And I knew we would. That's why I didn't ask it last week. So let's look at, let's see, no question from Jeff. That's not a question. Thank you, Keith, for your nice words. Thank you for the email, Jeff. I'll send you the beer, before the world ends. I don't know, maybe. Todd, very nice story. I don't know if he wanted us to read it. I don't know. I sent you that one, the one about Ken Bone. Do you think he wants us to read it on the there?
I'm terrible because I actually didn't read those emails. I was just like, there's questions in there. Craig will surprise me, and then I'll just give my off the cuff response.
I'm gonna. So Todd, I'm gonna read your story. Todd, 1990 graduate of WSU. He really can't wait for basketball. But so he has a story now. He was I'm returning home from the 2014 tournament early Sunday morning at the Vegas airport, standing in line to get coffee and food when I noticed Coach Ken Bone standing in front of me. I say, "Hey, Coach, go Cougs." He turns and, without really smiling, hesitates for a split second and replies, "Yeah, go Cougs." I think to myself, that wasn't very enthusiastic. Later that day, I tell a friend about my encounter with Coach Bone, and he tells me, of course, he wasn't very enthusiastic. He just got fired. I then realized the look I got from Coach wasn't a lack of school spirit, and more, doesn't that jackass know I just got fired? Second,
oh my god, that's amazing.
So that's his story. He also would like us to put our beers online. Maybe someday I'll go back through all the episodes and make a spreadsheet.
Maybe. That is hilarious.
But yeah, great story. I think I was at the next year in Vegas when I had a conference the same week. But yeah, great story. Sorry, Ken. But we do have some actual questions from our good friend Lars. He said he has a question for me. What are you most excited about moving up to the Sweet Life at Cougar football this season? So Lars and I both got the call up this year. So we get to move up to the top floor. Almost top floor. And then so yeah, Lars, of course hanging out with you, buddy. But really honestly, like, watching the game from up there with BA is super fun. I always like watching the games with BA, so that'll be fun. Spending my entire day now with Brian and Katie will be great because I already tailgate with them like the whole time too. That'll be fun. Getting the chance to have some guest passes, bring some friends up there, that'll be really cool. Like you, Jeff. I'm getting to bring my friend Heather up there for her birthday this weekend, which I'm really excited about. So that's really cool. But really, like, watching the game up there with Brian, just the way he views, and it's like, it's basically he gets all 22 watching the game, and just the way he like analyzes the plays. It's really fun. And so he's got questions for both of us as well. Okay. This is playing you can only have one game. So the first one is Cougs win a national title in football or men's basketball, which I think we've gotten before, but we'll do it again. So football or basketball?
Yeah, at this point in my life, I'd take basketball.
I'm basketball all the way.
Yeah, I mean it's awesome in football, no doubt, but like basketball because it's my favorite sport. That's and then just sort of like the relationships that we have with the coaching staff. That's
and then
I
the nature
basketball.
the nature of the tournament, like what an amazing run like that would be just across multiple weekends, like and to be able to go to a Final Four and watch the Cougs in a dome, which is like the stupidest thing, but just be like the Cougs are playing in front of 70,000 people right now. It's insane. The basketball team, that's so crazy. But yeah, I go with basketball. Basketball is my favorite sport, and I don't know, like there's just something about March, and it's to go through that would just be so fun. And if we could win one before Gonzaga wins one, that would be also really funny.
Oh my God, that would be amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, probably in the minority there, but basketball for both of us. I guarantee no one that listens to this podcast is surprised. Question 2. This one's tough. So looking at the women's sports, Cougs won a national title in soccer, volleyball, or basketball.
Soccer. I would choose soccer just because I love soccer, and I would love to see that program. Part of it is also like that actually seems like quasi legit as a possibility. I mean, they made it to the College Cup. Well, only 2 wins away.
I will go to my deathbed if COVID didn't happen and Trinity Rodman actually played for WSU. Yeah. We would have won at least one national championship. So
yes,
yeah,
maybe. So yeah, so I'm like, give me one of those, and then you take a program that is, like an upper half of the Pac-12 type program to maybe being an elite Pac-12 program after you do something like that. So yeah, that's what I would pick, because you'd have if you do that, then it becomes a virtuous cycle, right? And you're a powerhouse that keeps being a powerhouse.
So yeah, I love that, all that ideas and stuff. And this was when I was looking at it before, so I was thinking about this one. This is the hardest one. All 3 of these sports would be really fun to win a national title in. But I'm just, again, because basketball, I love basketball so much, I would go basketball. Like I would go the women's basketball team. That seems much more, again, soccer, it does seem like something the program could achieve, like in the not too distant future. Like the way they recruit, like you said, they've already been they've been to the Final Four. It's crazy. It's very close for me between basketball and soccer, but I'm gonna go with basketball, just to be contrarian here. Okay. And then your wife just sent her favorite Craig picture, which is one of my favorite too.
Which one?
It's look at your text.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, that is.
Yeah,
that's my favorite too. I love that one.
And then
it's okay. So for the listening audience, it's a great picture of Craig being super drunk. It was at after Mark Sandritter's wedding, and we went to Adaball. And and Craig, when he gets drunk, the most amazing thing about Craig when he gets drunk is that his hair just kind of gets increasingly disheveled. And so he's kind of got this far off stare with a full.
And the only time you see this is that, which I did not drink a single.
Which you did not drink. Of. You left it sitting on I don't know, we were at a Pac-Man table or something. So anyway, it was hilarious.
Yeah. So yeah, that's you only get to see that at weddings because I'm wearing a hat like all the rest of the time.
Yes. Yes. You were wearing a suit. You looked very dapper. Good work.
Yeah. Until everything just fell apart. So lastly, Lars asks, do any of these 5 teams win a national title in your lifetime? So the football team, men's basketball, women's basketball, soccer, or volleyball.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that the odds are no. I mean, that would be amazing, but I think that, like, yeah, that would be pretty wild if it did happen. So
I'm going
pretty low. I'm low probability.
I'm going against the probability and saying yes. Soccer wins one, and let's say I live. Well, I don't know. Let's say soccer wins one. If I live another 40 to 50 years, I don't know. Like I feel like maybe in the next, there's a decent chance out of any of those sports, soccer is definitely the highest probability, and it's still probably like a less than 1% probability. But
yeah,
I'm just gonna say yes because I want to believe that I will see any WSU team. Obviously, we've had some individuals win national championships, but we see a team in my lifetime win a championship would be amazing. And I think if there's any program that could do it, it's the soccer team. They've been the closest.
Yep.
That's probably then followed by the volleyball team would be the next, I think.
Yeah.
Closest. So yeah. Thank you, Lars, for those questions. Thank you, Ben, for your question that sent us spiraling. And now we're back to our classic near 2-hour podcast.
Yes.
So if you made it this far again,
long commutes.
If you made it this far again, rate 5 stars. Give us a follow. I know there's probably some of you that are just starting to listen because it's football season. Go ahead and keep it going with us. Follow me on Twitter at the Craig Powers, Jeff at Pop versus Everyone. And then with that, or send us emails. We like the emails at podcastversuseveryone@gmail.com. And with that, I say, Jeff, go Cougs.
Go Cougs, Craig. Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Get vaccinated still. Boosters.
Still.
There's a new booster.